Hello, it's Tony Blazer back with another video for the Motocross Vault. What this was actually a compilation of some videos I did a couple of years ago. Back in 2015, I bought a 1990 CR250 and I bought it as a project bike. And I plan on doing some articles on pulpmx.com and also doing some videos here on the channel. And I ended up doing about 5 installments. It took me about 8 months to redo the bike from stem to stern. I stripped it all the way down, completely went through it. The engine had to rebuild the frame a little bit, some damage, stuff, typical stuff for a 30-year-old bike. Originally, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. I ended up doing like kind of a Jeff Stanton Replica build. I always loved the 90s, one of my favorite bikes, and I think the build turned out pretty sweet. So I thought it'd be good to put all of them together instead of having separate videos and kind of compile them and have them in one place so you can kind of watch it as you go. So this is that video, and I certainly hope you enjoy it. Alright, well here we have my new project. I just got this. It is a 1990 CR250R. I will be hopefully restoring it over this winter, and I will post updates on the channel. I'm also going to be writing a story at pulpmx.com where I do a lot of writing on motocross in general and classic bikes specifically. Hopefully we're going to have a little fun restoring this old girl. I actually had this bike brand new. Well, not brand new. I had this bike. It was used when I got it back in the early 90s. Not this exact one, but a CR250, very similar to this. I've actually had the 125, the 250, and the 500 this year. They're all pretty good bikes, except for the forks, which are just terrible on these things. Hoping maybe I'll get Race Tech to see if they can get them sorted out, because stock, they're pretty bad. This bike, as you can see, is in pretty nice shape. I got it from a gentleman who works at Racer X, who was kind enough to sell it to me. And it's a nice base for a restoration project. It's looks to be in pretty decent shape overall. I haven't torn the motor down yet. I just got it the other day. Tried to start it up, and first thing that happened was it started puking out gas out through the petcock. The seal appears to be bad. And it kind of burbled and spurtled a little bit, but didn't really start up, so I had to order some stuff, some new gasket. I got a gasket set coming and some other stuff. Obviously, it's going to need a little cosmetic work. Got a 1991 vintage seat racing no slip cover. I actually hate these things. I never really cared for them when they were new. I didn't like the look of this weird one. I actually had a Technocell one on my 90 CR back in the day. Had that kind of cool ribbed pattern on it. Which was neat, although it did chew a hole through the bottom of my AXO pants eventually. I think I'm probably going to go, I already scored a Technocell cover, a new one off eBay. I'll probably go with that. I am debating going with like the 91 look. I hated the 1991 look back in the day, but you know how things go. Nostalgia makes it seem a little more appealing to you later, so I'm debating that. The 90 look is just so clean. 91 look is obviously a little bit gaudy and kind of crazy looking with the tiger stripes and the white shrouds and the crazy graphics, but might make for a cool bike. You don't see very many of them out there anymore, so might be kind of cool. Got a Pro Circuit pipe on it, although you wouldn't hardly tell. I think the guy painted it, but it looks like it was painted then just let to rust a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm probably going to try and sandblast it and see if I can bring the natural finish back. It's funny, when I bought my CR500, it had a SA Pro on it too. These Answer silencers were popular back in the day. It's kind of weird that Answer doesn't make any silencers anymore, but I actually had the motocross version of one of these on my 250 way back in the day, 20 years ago or whatever. It seemed to work pretty well. So I scored a OEM one off eBay as well, so I'll probably put that back on. Even the Works bikes kind of ran a stock silencer back in the early 90s, which is always kind of peculiar, but maybe they were modded internally, but they look the same as the OEM on the outside. Tire is still, this thing might be the original tire. It's a K490. It is bald. The little knobs are worn down. I'm sure as soon as I start riding it, the knobs will probably start chinking off. The guy who owned this bike had it out in California and rode it in the dunes, so I guess the tire didn't take much abuse there, but it's, you know, obviously pretty worn down. There's a really hideous looking DeVol. I'll swing this around so it's in the light. Pretty hideous looking front guard on this thing. I never cared for this front DeVol guard. It's ugly, even by 1990 standards. That's got to go. I have a set of pegs. I might just leave these on here. I don't know. They're spindly by modern standards, but I kind of want it to look as stock as possible. I don't really want to mod it all to heck. Got a hideous black sprocket, although it is steel, and an O-ring chain for obvious reasons in the sand, but I'm not going to be duning it, so I don't really worry about that. Fender's a little bit worn out. Got some holes drilled in it for, obviously I got a tool bag on it, looks like. My poor mud flap has seen better days. It's clear chewed through. It's toast, obviously. The plastic itself, you know, obviously it's not bad for a 25-year-old motorcycle, but it's not really up to snuff for what I want the bike to look like. I hope it to look, you know, pretty OEM fresh when I get done. So I'll probably replace the fenders and put bearings. I can feel that the tick 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 when you turn the steering head, that the bearings are feel a little shot in there. And I'm sure when I get the linkage apart, it'll be pretty wear out too. But we'll find out once we start digging it apart. But anyway, once I dig into it a little bit, if I add any mods or anything, I'll update everybody. And you can, like I said, if you go to pulpmx.com, you can check out the articles as I do the build, and also I've written you know, several hundred articles actually, or over by 130 now, I guess, on classic motocross. So if you're into that, make sure you check that out as well. And talk to you soon. Bye. All right. Well, I put a new plug in it. Did a little work on the carburetor, adjusted a few things, and I've got it lit. It doesn't it doesn't come on the power band, like I suppose. It kind of chokes off, so I'm not sure if the HPP valve may not be opening. It could be a problem with the carburetor. I'm not sure, but I'll sort that out. But at least it does run, and I thought I would show you guys it running a little bit so you can hear it. It's pretty quiet, actually. The SA Pro is pretty quiet. So anyway, I'll get my wife to hold the camera here real quick, and I'll fire it up. It's actually not too bad as far as noise goes. That SA Pro is pretty quiet. Love the smell of two-stroke. Should be fun when I get it sorted out a little bit. Like I said, it won't, when I try to ride it, it comes on strong off the bottom, but then it chokes when it feels like the HPP is supposed to open. It kind of just acts like it's choking on its own exhaust. So maybe a problem with the power valve, could be jetting, I'm not sure. I'll have to figure that out. So anyway, I'll keep you updated. Hello everybody, it's now February, and I'm about 3 months into my 1990 CR250R restoration project, and I thought I'd give everybody a little update on where I am. Right now the bike is still in a million pieces. I have the motor back together. That's really the first major component to get put back together in one piece. I've repainted it, went through and replaced all the black bolts with some nice high polished zinc ones, give it that factory look. I also have a set of HRC replica covers coming for it from Europe. They're on their way to me, and I will definitely throw those on there when I get them. Give it that extra little look. Got a new shifter for it. The stock one was pretty beat. The Kickstarter's in decent shape. It's not 100% perfect. Unfortunately, it's got enough of a bit of slop in it that it contacts the brake pedal, which is pretty common on these. I'd get a new one, but it's a discontinued part. Honda no longer makes this Kickstarter, which is a bummer, considering it's the main part I think I need is this knuckle at the bottom. Appears to be a little mushed, but like I said, you can't get it anymore. So you know, pretty much any ones you find on the web at this point are likewise beaten. Pretty common things, aluminum, so it takes a pretty strong beating as you hammer on it all the time starting the bike. So my wheels are I just got them back from Dubya, who was awesome. John Anderson at Dubya laced me up some Excel rims, some heavy duty spokes, and powder coated the stock hub for me. So I got some new bearings from Pivot Works to go in there. So I'm gonna replace all the bearings and everything on the bike. Linkage, wheel bearings, steering head bearing, all that stuff's getting replaced. Scored this sweet factory looking sprocket, which is like what they were running in 90, because I'm going for like a 1990 CR250 Jeff Stanton replica look with it. You can see the hub looks really nice, all powder coated and clean. When I put these, took the wheels off, they had a crack in the front one, which is pretty common actually. I went through a couple of these back in 1990 when I was racing these bikes all the time. I had a problem with the front wheels cracking under repeated hard landings. And this thing here is 30 years old now, so it's not surprising that when I got into it, it was cracked as well. So these not only add a little polish and bling factor, they also should hold up a lot better. I don't anticipate riding this thing very hard. I'm an old fart now. I'm not going to race the bike, but I hope to take it out to the racetrack to play around with and stuff, and it's just nice to not worry about that. I also have a nice set of Michelins. I'm going to try the new Starcross 5s out. They're on the way to me, so I'm going to stick those on there when I get them and try them out here. Hopefully we'll have the bike back together in about a month or so. The frame itself is off getting powder coated. It should be about done. There was like a crack to one of the foot peg mounts, and also the bottom of the frame was worn through, which is weird. The bike was ridden in the dunes, and maybe the sand rubbing against it. I don't know. It was kind of strange. The frames weren't flat. They weren't smashed in any way. It was just like they got ground down over time, which is kind of strange. It actually wore clear a little hole through it. So I had the guy my buddy at the body shop weld some new metal in there to strengthen it up, and then he's powder coating it to the original Honda white. And hopefully I'll have that back soon. I am getting a little anxious to start putting things back together, so it'll be nice to have the frame to start working on. I'll show you a couple more things I got here. Hold on. One of the biggest improvements that I've made here with this project is the pipe. The stock pipe that came on it, well, it's not really stock, the Pro Circuit pipe that came on the bike was one of the natural finish works pipes, but at some point it had been painted and then kind of left to rust and rot. It was actually in pretty decent shape. Structurally it wasn't too dented, a few little minor dings, nothing major, but the surface was pretty beat looking. Well, the guys at Pacific Coast Pipe Repair, Scott contacted me and said he could do a restoration on the pipe, and oh my God, did he work wonders on this thing. It's quite hard to see because the lighting out here is not great, but he refinished the whole thing, redid all the welds. It has that amazing work spike blued finish to it now. It just looks amazing. Got at almost all the dents. There's like a tiny little one you can see down here, but for the most part it is just awesome how well this thing turned out. And it's nice because you can't get this pipe anymore. The natural finish Pro Circuit is no longer available. You can get pipes for the bike, but they're all that nickel finish, which I don't really care for, and certainly would not look appropriate on a works replica, so to speak. I ditched that SA Pro that was on it. Well, it worked well. It looked pretty ridiculous to me, and I scored a nice OEM Honda one, and that actually works on a works replica, because in 1990, actually up until maybe the mid-90s, Honda basically ran a modified stock silencer on their works bikes. It looks, it might have had a little different internals, it might have been a little shorter or something like that, but it looked just like the OEM one. So if you get one of these nice ones, you can run it. It just needed a little rebuild. Other than that, it's in nice shape. There's a tiny little dent here because somebody had lost the little rubber grommet, but you won't be able to see that once the side panel's on it. I just cleaned it up, repainted the end cap, repacked it. Should be good to go. One of the things I was bummed about on the bike when I got it was the brakes. The front brakes in particular were really terrible. Like I said, I had these bikes back in 90. In fact, I had a 500 only a year or two ago. And yeah, you ride it back to back with a modern KTM or anything, and of course they don't feel great, but these things felt terrible even by 1990 standards. They had no bite. They just felt kind of numb and wooden. So anyways, I went ahead and found a 94 complete front brake system on eBay for like 20 bucks. They use more or less the same caliper design. The bracket's the same, so I'm hoping it should just bolt right up. Holding them side by side, they seem to have the same basic size, and I didn't want to switch out just the caliper or the master cylinder, because sometimes there's internal stuff going on there where the pistons might be different sizes, and there's a lot of math that goes into exactly how that system works. So the advantage of going to 94 is twofold. This lever, in I guess 92, they switched to a shorty style lever, and a new master cylinder that's actually adjustable for reach. There's a spring in here and allows it to, you can move it a little closer to your hand. The 90, it's always all the way out. I don't have real big hands, So it's kind of a reach, and you couldn't really move the lever to a position that was comfortable for me. Back in '90, I actually countersunk the stock lever myself and rigged up a little spring. I basically copied the '92 master cylinder in a shade tree mechanic back asteroids kind of way. The other thing is this the brake line in the '90s, very unique. It uses a strange fitting here. It doesn't use a traditional banjo fitting. It actually screws right into the master cylinder, and like 84 to 91 uses this design. The problem with that is pretty much nobody else uses that design, and I wanted to be able to upgrade it to some better lines. So when I got to '94, that uses a traditional banjo fitting. It allows you to go to a more modern line. I contacted Ride Engineering, which is one of our sponsors at Pulp MX, and they were nice enough to hook me up with a braided steel line for this. So I should be able to bolt that all back together. Use the new master cylinder, that has the banjo fitting, the more traditional fitting, uses the more up-to-date lever, and use the caliper here, which actually was a little dingy looking. Started out looking like this. Cleaned it up a little bit, polished her up. Looks a lot better. Probably getting hard to tell here, but it definitely looks a lot nicer. And they're, like I said, they're basic size. There's some additional cooling fins built into there. God only knows if that actually makes a difference. I didn't really notice fading being a real problem back in 1990. I suppose if you're JMB or one of these guys, it was an issue, but I never had a problem with it. One other thing that has been a complete nightmare, by far the biggest pain in my butt so far, is the seat cover. As I mentioned, the stock seat foam was still on the bike, and somebody put a seat racing cover on it, and they punched it down. And there's an issue here with the foam in the front of this thing. The seat pan itself is pretty far back away from the foam, and the foam sticks up a good 2 inches on every side to snug up against the tank. And then this seat foam extends well past the seat pan to fit snug against the tank. Well, if you cinch this thing down, it scrunches this foam, misshapes it everywhere. So then it doesn't fit right, which is what basically had happened with the stock when it had been bunched back. So I contacted Guts Racing, another one of our sponsors at Pulp, and they were awesome and hooked me up with some seat foam. And I scored one of these Technicell covers off of a site in Europe that still sells them. The guy who owned Technicell originally actually has another company and still sells these things, which is pretty awesome. But I can't get the thing on here worth a damn. I put it on, and it had a big crease right here in the middle where this low section is, pretty typical. I couldn't get it on. I tried it 3 or 4 times. Took it to the Honda shop here in town, Loudon Motorsports. My buddy's over there. Steve was able to get it on there with no creases, but then the problem was he had pulled it so tight up here that it had deformed all this foam. I put it on there against the tank, and it looks just terrible. You can also see, of course, with a bowl bike like this, where that foam had been rubbing against the tank for quite a while, and there's marks there, so it's really noticeable when it doesn't fit there correctly. So I want it to look OEM. I'm just not sure exactly how to get that thing on there. I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm just frustrated. I actually ordered a different kind of seat cover. Another company makes an OEM style for the 91, because again, I'm going with like a Stanton Replica. That will maybe fit better, I don't know. This thing is, these old covers, they're not as easy to work with as the stuff that's modern now. They don't have as much stretch built into them and stuff. This thing is obviously pretty old. It's a 25-year-old cover to begin with, so I might try fighting with it. This thing here, I'm not gonna be able to use it again though, because unfortunately when Steve put it on there, he cut down the edges so there was no overlap. Well, that no longer leaves enough cover to cover the foam if you leave it so it's not pulled tight here. So that cover's no good anymore, unfortunately. I'm gonna try another one, see what it goes. I don't know, I'm frustrated. I went to an upholstery shop even here in town, and they wanted $130 to do it, which is blew my mind at the time, and I doubt they'd do any better, really. I think the problem is the cover. I've never been very good at these stupid seat foam things, so that's definitely not my forte. I'm just about to pull my hair out, what little bit I still have left, fighting with this stupid seat cover. But anyway, that's been the only major hiccup so far. As to the motor, I know when I was talking about the engine before, it was having some issues where it wouldn't pull through cleanly under the power band. The motor itself seemed okay, and once the guys got into it, it seemed just fine internally. The power valve worked all right, and everything else the guys at Loudon think the problem was the carburetor. There were some issues with some jets clogged, and they ordered some new stuff for the internals, rebuilt the carburetor completely. So haven't checked it yet, of course, because the bike's still apart, but I'm hoping that sorted out what was going on there where it wouldn't come on the pipe. So anyway, as I said, I'm going for like a Works Honda look on the bike. So in that vein, I was lucky enough to get hooked up with a company called Evo MX out of the UK, which makes some awesome factory Honda replica graphics. They hooked me up with these OEM swing arm decals, which are no longer available, and they make this awesome kit that allows you to give the bike that Stanton replica look, right down to the Coors Extra Gold. Some of these things you can get on the web still, the Pro Honda stickers and stuff, but really there aren't any Coors Extra Gold stickers out there. Stuff like the rear fender stuff, the DID, old Renthal stuff, some of that is just not readily available. The new decals are all changed their font. Same thing with the Shawa decals for the forks. So you can find tons of those, but they all have the kind of an italicized font that are used on modern bikes, and in 90 they had more of a straight up and down look to them. The graphics here look just like what the OEM factory Hondas ran back then, which is pretty awesome. What's interesting is actually when I held them up next to the original graphics for the CR, the wing is like 10% bigger, which is kind of cool. It fills up the shroud a little more. Something I never really noticed to you, so I'm having them up side by side. The tank itself was in, I guess overall decent shape for its age, but there were some pretty good gouges. Like right here, it looks like something had really took a nick out of the thing, and it's pretty scratched on both sides. So I took that plastic renew kit and sanded it all down. It took me a good 2 days to do all that work. It was a lot of work, but I got the gouges out, redid it with the plastic renew, and it really looks 1,000% better. I think once it gets all on the bike, you won't even notice the gouges or anything anymore. It's going to look great. You can see here where originally where the seat is supposed to sit flush here, and when you scrunch up the foam, it sits, instead of up here, it sits like down here somewhere, and you can really see where it had rubbed against it. And it was pretty obvious, looked pretty terrible actually when I put it against it. So I'm really hoping I can get that sorted out. Scored this really cool like Works replica front number plate. It's hard to tell here, but it's actually translucent. The Works bikes back then used a translucent plastic. It's not straight up white, and these are kind of a Works replica. I also have one of the little bolt-on cable guides I'm going to put in there too, so give it that extra little factory touch. Obviously I can't afford to get clamps. I mean, there's actually an amazing amount of that old Works stuff is still out there. Some guys that used to be mechanics still have it for sale in Europe, but it's all really expensive, and I don't want to go that crazy. I don't really care that much about it. I just like to have it look nice and give it that factory look with mostly stock stuff. I want to go crazy with it. I just want it to look nice when I'm done, be able to ride it without worrying about breaking something irreplaceable, which would be not awesome. The kit the guys at Evo MX made for me also includes the rear fender, which is pretty awesome. This DID sticker, the Renthal, and the Twin Air are hard to come by online in that font. As you can see, the Renthal is kind of an old style that they used back then. Now it's kind of an italicized. I hadn't been able to find them. HRC decals, not a big deal. This is the old style Pro Honda, so gives it a kind of a nice look to it. I actually had some die cut Dunlop ones, like the original ones like they used back then, but they were so old that I tried to put them on and they'd yellowed, so I was like, it was nice that this kit came with some new ones. Stock pegs, I'm going to use the stock pegs, but the guys at Works Connection were kind enough to hook me up with one of their peg widener kits. It includes a nice little extension here that extends it both for length and width, because compared to a modern peg, these are pretty small. If first time you hit something big, you're going to notice a difference on your sole of your feet. So this is definitely a big improvement. I actually had scored a set of IMS pegs years ago for my 500, and they never quite fit right. So anyways, I just thought I would go this route because I know these work right. They sit exactly right. The other ones kind of had a little bit of a kick to them. They didn't sit level. It's like the stop was a little not quite right. So I'm not sure if that was an issue with the pegs or maybe I had the wrong ones. Whatever it was, I didn't want to go that route. So this also is a lot less costly, probably about half what it's going to cost you to get a whole new set of pegs. So anyway, it turned out nicely, and I can't wait to start putting it back together. As soon as I have the frame back and the suspension and everything, I'll start bolting it back together. I'll do another update as we go, and hopefully within a month or so I'll actually have something that I can start and fire up for you guys. All right, big first step. Got the frame back together and got the motor in there. Just got it back from getting powder coated yesterday and stuck the motor back in. Next up is getting the swing arm back on and starting to piece it together. I'm still waiting for the suspension to come back from Race Tech, so I can't really start putting everything back together. And my HRC covers are on the way from Europe, which is pretty awesome as well. So Project 90 is still moving along ever so slowly but surely. Right, today's the day. I'm finally getting my suspension back and I can start putting Project 90 back together. Got the frame back, gosh, about a month ago. I've been waiting on the suspension from Race Tech. They had to hold up, and then I had some stuff going on at work, so haven't been able to put as much time into the bike as I'd like, but finally going to start bolting it back together. Finally got my awesome HRC replica covers from a gentleman in Italy who makes them, which are pretty badass. As you can see, look just like the stuff that they ran on the factory Hondas back in the day, which is pretty cool. You've got this really awesome cover for the HPP. I don't even know what that little doohickey did. I guess it's probably some adjustable stopper on the guillotine valves, but I don't know if anybody really knows outside of HRC what they did, but it does look cool. Got mini boxes here to put stuff back together, doohickeys and doodads and linkages and what have you. I didn't spring for some new radiators. I'd like to. Most of the ones you find now are like these Chinese knockoffs that don't really look good. This one, as you can see, is not in phenomenal shape, but it's usable. If I was going to go the whole 9 yards, obviously I'd get new ones, but they're very expensive. I got my seat cover done finally, although I did score a OEM one off of eBay for a reasonable amount, and I might actually run that on the bike for the article I'm writing and stuff. Then maybe put this one on here when I'm actually riding the bike, because I don't want to take a chance on damaging the OEM one. This one here, I love the looks of this logo and this style. I ran this back on my 90 when I had it back in the day, but they never ran this seat in the US, and I'm kind of doing a Stanton replica. The one in the US was either completely blank or had the tiger stripes on it. I scored from the same guy in Italy. I got this really cool canvas Rinthal pad, which they ran back in the day. I got a new Rinthal bar for the bike, but of course it comes with like the laminated vinyl one now. And this is a replica of what they ran on Stanton's bike back then, which is pretty cool. The Sunstar sprocket, which looks badass. I love the finish on it. Rinthal chain. Got new cables for everything. So all my little bolts marked off. New plastic all around. Even got a new mud flap because the other one was chewed up. Got some new tires. I'm still waiting on a front, which was on back order. But I got hooked up with the guys at Michelin. Sent me some Star Crosses, which is awesome. I can't wait to try them out. See how much easier they are to mount them up. I have to wait probably another week or two for the front, but I can get it all started back together today. Hopefully I'll get most of it at least looking like a motorcycle again, and then fire it up, be able to actually listen to it, which would be cool, because I can't really ride it obviously without a front tire, but it'd be nice to actually have it look like a motorcycle at least, instead of mini boxes of assorted parts. It's been a long project. Started this thing back in, gosh, I guess October, November. It's March now, so these things always take a while. So it takes a while to get stuff together, and you're waiting on vendors, aftermarket stuff, getting the frames done, and all this other things. But I think it's gonna be really nice when I get done. Can't wait to fire it up, and hopefully I can get some video of it in action as well once that's done. So I'll give you another update here as we go. Regarding my seat debacle, as I had documented before, I had put this Technocell one on here originally. Wasn't able to get it to fit very well, and my buddy at the Honda shop put it on there super tight, but unfortunately cinched it down so tight that it was bunching the foam and then trimmed the heck out of it, so I can't really use it again, which is a bummer. So I tried to score another one off eBay, off a seller by the name of, goes by OEM Replica. I would be aware of that because I don't know if you can tell here because of the kind of strange lighting during the day, but this one I got, although the design looks right, man, it is not even close in terms of color. The Honda one is more of a a deeper red orange. The thing I got here is almost like a funky KTM orange, maybe kind of like the 05 KTM. Not even that rich. It's just weird. It's not even close to the same color, which is pretty much a bummer. The thing came from Taiwan or someplace, so it's almost not even worth. At least it's inexpensive. It's like $30, but it's not even worth sending it back. I would just say, if you're going to get one of these seat covers from this guy, I would be careful. Like I said, the color is just not even close to the right shade. It's pretty distinctly a funky orange. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I may, I don't know, use it as a shop rag or something. All right, got the Race Tech suspension out of the box over here. Super psyched about it finally getting here. I went ahead and had them install their gold valves and put different springs and front and rear for me. Set it up for my weight and lack of speed. The shock as well had the gold valve installed in that. Can't wait to try it out. I had them redo the suspension on my 83 480 a couple years back, and it was like night and day better. It was unbelievable the difference. So this suspension, not very good stock back in the day, so I'm hoping they can work similar wonders on it. Hopefully I'll know pretty soon. Got my Pivot Works bearings installed, all new bearings and everything. That's a pain in the butt. Actually had to have the Honda shop take the old ones out because I could not get them out. They're been in there a long time, stubborn, didn't want to come out. So my buddies at Loudon Motorsports here in Leesburg were kind enough to remove them for me and swap them. So I'm going to start bolting her back together here, and hopefully it'll look like a motorcycle in a couple hours. It's coming together slowly but surely. Got my Race Tech revalved shock on, which was a pain in the butt because, of course, with the powder coating, nothing quite wants to go in like it used to. You have to sit there and grind and chisel away to get enough clearance for everything. Forgot what a pain in the butt that is. Got my nice shined up swing arm back on. All new radiator hoses, which is good. I did not replace the radiators, like I said, but they look pretty good. I painted them, so they look pretty decent. Once you get on there, you'll be able to tell they're the old ones. All that's back on. Got my brake back together. Still waiting on getting the front tires. I can't really put the front all back together yet, but that's still a work in progress. And actually I had one of my had a problem with one of the bearings yesterday. I had to take that to the shop to get it off, the old one off and the new one back on the steering head. I couldn't for the life of me get that sucker off. So anyways, again, my buddies at Loudon Motorsport were nice enough to help me out with that. So hoping to get maybe the air box and everything on here pretty soon. I got the rear tire done. Got a nice new Michelin on it, so that is ready to go over here. Brand new tire on there. Looks like hopefully it hooks up. It's actually very easy to put it on too. I was real pleased with that. One of the things that Michelin was talking about is how easy the new tires are to mount, and it turned out that thing was great. I let it sit in the sun for a little while and it went right on, no problem at all. Really easy. Didn't fight with me too much because I was pleased with that after fighting with all the other crap trying to get stuff back in the frame with the powder coating and stuff. So it was nice that something went together easily for once. So that was awesome. And then, like I said, still keep on trucking here a little bit at a time. All right, as you can see, I have it mostly back in one piece. I am still waiting for a front tire from Michelin, so I can't get it 100% put back together. I did get my brake on there. My 94 brake feels way better than the original 90 in terms of the feel of the lever and stuff. Took me forever to get all the air out of the line, which was a pain in the butt. But now it has a nice firm feel to it. Hopefully it will work well when we get it back together. Bike looks pretty awesome, as you can see. My garage is a mess. I have to pardon that. I've got a million things of kids junk in here, plus my little workspace, got a little garage, so not much room for that. Got some nice guards for the frame. They'll look great, and they help protect the paint on these old steel frames. Obviously, it's easy to wear off the paint. So, about to fire up for the first time here. Hopefully, it gives me no problem. We'll see how it goes. All right, we're gonna fire it up here. See how this goes. Hopefully, it lights up. Should feel nice and tight. Where's it? It lives! Super psyched about it. Alright, we swapped the carburetor out. I'm going to fire it up. See if that finally gets rid of the bog. Put new crank seals in it. Put all new carb on it. We'll see if this fixes it. Try it out and see if it works here. That didn't sound normal.
Slides hung on this spacer right here.
Alright, we're going to try this again. See how this works. Alright, after 6 months, Project 90 is finally complete. I finally got that stupid bog sorted out. Turned out it was the carburetor. We swapped out the crank seals, changed all the jets in the carburetor, ordered new parts for the carburetor. It still wouldn't fix it. I figured it was narrowed down to either the ignition was bad or something in the carburetor. So my buddy Jamie Conard actually just restored a CR500 a couple years ago, and he had the stock carburetor, which happens to be the same basic one that's used on this. And I borrowed his, fired it up, works just fine. So we tracked that down. So I'm gonna have to get another carburetor, but at least we know what's going on. The bike itself is complete and actually rideable, which is awesome. Got all my graphics and stuff on here. Want to thank everybody who helped me with the project. I got my awesome Michelin star crosses. Can't wait to try them out on here. Race Tech was kind enough to redo the front and rear suspension on the thing, so I can't wait to try that out too. So hopefully be able to ride that thing in, just maybe tomorrow. I'll take it out. Actually take it for a ride. I almost hate to ride it. It's so beautiful. The bike itself is so clean. As soon as I crash and hurt it, I'll be super bummed. But anyways, I guess it's made to ride, not to look at as a trophy piece. But it almost seems sad to ride it at this point. I don't want to damage it, drop it, and smash that beautiful pipe or something crazy. So in any case, I'm super pumped that it's running and riding again, and we can take it for a spin. As you can see, the old girl fires right up now. First kick, which is good, and takes throttle without bogging. Super pumped about that. Before it was loading up when I went to give it the gas here, it would just bog out. You'd have to hold it open for a few seconds to clean it out. Now it just sticks right up. Love that sound. Super pumped to actually go out and try it out.